Hey everybody, happy Wednesday. Glad to see you guys. I just got back from vacation. I've been out of the country for a couple of weeks, but I'm back. So we're going to be talking about electric violin stuff today. Sort of electric violin stuff. We're actually going to be talking about how to work with sound engineers and to live to tell about it. Because sound engineers, I don't know if you know, I am a sound engineer. We have kind of a well-earned reputation for being a little grumpy. Uh, we're mostly grumpy because of musicians, but that's okay. So we're going to talk about what is it like to work with sound engineers. How can you make that a positive experience for everybody involved? And so the scenario that I kind of envisioned as I was putting this together was that you've got a gig and you're going to be working with a provided PA. Say that you're going to go play a festival or something where they've got provided PA. Maybe it's a corporate event or something, but the venue is providing the sound for you. Congratulations. That's amazing. It's a lot of fun to go play when you don't have to set up. You don't have to run the sound. You're not pulling wires for lighting. You're not dealing with heavy speakers. You don't have to tear down at the end of it. It's a lot of fun to do those kind of gigs. But again, there's a right way and a wrong way to interact with sound crews and sound engineers. I got some tips. I've been doing this a long, long time. And I've been on both sides of the board. I've been the sound engineer and I've been the artist, what we call the talent and the crew. I've been on both sides of that. So it does not start the day of the gig. The way that you get a good interaction going does not start on the day of the show. It starts like a week before that. So I don't know if you guys know about advancing your gigs, but that's called say we're going to play this coming Saturday. Monday or Tuesday at the latest, you need to call your booking contact and kind of iron out all the details. What time do we need to be there? What's the dress code? Is there alcohol, no alcohol? Are you guys feeding us? Do we have a green room? Do we have parking? What are all the details for this? While you're having that conversation, get the name and the contact information for the sound company that's going to be working and call them directly. Like as soon as you hang up from your booking person, call the sound company, reach out to them, provide them an input list and a stage plot. If you don't know what that is, I'll show you in just a second. I'll give you an example. You're going to want to send an electronic copy of your input list and your stage plot, and then bring 2 paper copies with you. Do not trust your booking person to send that because they always say they're gonna, oh, you can just send it to me and I'll send it to the sound company. Yeah, you're hysterical. That never happens. As the sound engineer on these gigs, I've never gotten an accurate stage plot or input list. I've gotten some stuff, but none of it was accurate. I've gotten that from promoters. You want to talk to the band. Both the sound company wants to talk to you and you want to talk to them. So make sure you're doing that. And then you're going to bring 2 paper copies with you because chances are they got it, looked at it, they knew what to pack for the thing, and then they didn't bring it with them. So you're going to want to make sure that you bring 2 copies with you. This is what the input list for my band looks like, for the Matt Bell Band, which is an incredibly original name. I know I came up with it all by myself. I've got a list of every channel that I'm going to need. And you can see it's 17 channels, and that way it's very easy for the sound company to go, oh, we need 17 channels. We've got a 48 channel board. We're in good shape. And then I list what each of them are: kick, snare, hat, rack 1, whatever. And then the next couple of columns, that's going to tell you what the band needs to bring and what the sound company needs to bring, how we're going to get that instrument into the snake. And the first column there, the sound company is bringing some mics for the drums. They need to bring a DI for my bass player. They need to bring a mic on a little mic clipper stand from my guitar player and a couple of mics on boom stands. And then the band is going to bring 5 DIs. And then you can see that last column where it says 48 volts. That's actually for the front of house person right there. That lets them know if they need to send phantom power on that channel or not. If they've got this input list, they know pretty much everything they need to know to patch up the system and get it started. So you're going to want to have something like this that tells them what the channel, and then you can see a summary there at the bottom right. 6 drum mics, 2 overheads, a DI, a guitar mic, and 2 vocal mics on boom stands. That's going to let them know what they need to have. The next thing is going to be a stage plot. This is very similar information, but it's laid out, and this is what the stage itself is going to look like. The convention on this is the audience is always this way. So you can see Cole, the DJ, and me. We're going to be at the front of the stage with the audience this way. My drummer, guitar player, and bass player are in the second row behind us. But this diagram shows where each thing's going to be, what the lines are, and what the power drop situation is going to be. 4 of us need a power drop. The drummer doesn't need a power drop. And then sometimes you might even put what your monitor situation is, but it's pretty easy to assume that pretty much everybody needs a monitor. So I didn't put those on this stage plot. But this is what your stage plot and input list need to look like, something like this, so that the sound company knows what they need when you arrive. Ideally, you'll send this in electronic format ahead of time and then bring some paper copies with you. So as the stagehands are setting up the stage for you, they've got this in their hand. They know where everybody's got to go. I've even seen people put pictures on here. Like, my guitar player, his name's Eric. Here's what he looks like. And so, when he walks up, the crew's going to go, oh, you're Eric, you're the guitar player. So sometimes that's helpful to put a picture on there too. So what is the schedule? When you're talking during this advancing the gig, when you call the promoter or the booker or whoever booked you for the show, you want to ask them what time should you get there. Say we're going to hit at 4 o'clock. They're going to, hey, we want you to be there at 3 o'clock. When you talk to the sound company 10 minutes later, tell them, hey, the promoter told me that we hit at 4. They want us there at 3. Does that sound reasonable to you? They may say, actually 2:30 would work out better for us, and they may tell you why. When you get a time, just show up to whatever the earlier of the 2 times are, and then be on time. If they've asked you to be there at 2:30, actually be there at 2:30. That's super helpful. It helps get that relationship off on the right foot. They're like, oh, we asked them to be here at 2:30. It's now 3:15. Nobody knows where they are. That's not ideal, right? So arrival etiquette. When you arrive, park somewhere, and we'll get to that, but introduce yourself to the sound crew. Hey man, I'm Matt. I'm the singer. I'm the violinist. Looking forward to working with you guys today. What's your name and who are you? Well, I'm Jeff. I'm the A1. I'm the lead sound engineer. Or, I'm Susie. I'm the stage manager. So learn their names and use their names. Talk to them because, they're human beings, more or less. Talk to them. Use their names. It's really nice to actually have somebody act like, they appreciate you as a human being doing your job and being there and doing the stuff. Ask them, where should I park my truck? A lot of times I've got a big equipment truck or a truck with a trailer behind it. Where does that need to be? Because they've probably got a band on stage now and their truck is there. My band's coming in. We got a truck there. The next band who's coming in while I'm on stage is going to have a truck. Where do these things need to be? The sound company may have some opinions about where all that needs to be for them to get their job done the best way. And then ask them, okay, I'm going to put my truck over here. Where should we stage our stuff? Because we're going to open up the back door of that truck. We're going to pull all our stuff out. We're going to set things up to have it ready to go on the stage. So that can be a quick process. Where should I stage my stuff so that I'm out of the way of you and I'm out of the way of the band that's trying to strike as soon as they're done playing? And then just let them know, hey, when you're ready for us, you let us know and we'll come set up. A lot of times there is a drink cooler underneath the stage, especially if you're outside, you're doing these summer festivals and stuff. Ask them. Sometimes that is their cooler. The sound production crew, they brought a cooler with their drinks and their ice in it. Sometimes it belongs to the festival and it's for the bands and the crew. I've seen both of those happen pretty frequently. Make sure you know which one is which. So if you guys are diving in and pulling all the Gatorades and waters and the Miller Lights out of that thing, and those aren't yours and they're not for you, the crew brought those for themselves, that relationship's going to get off on a bad foot. So just find out who what are all the supplies back here? Who do those belong to? Are those available for us or are those yours? As you're getting set up off the stage, get everything set up. Get your drums set up, get the tom mounts and all that stuff set up to where when it's your turn to take the stage, you will be able to take the stage and be set up in, 5 minutes or so. It should be pretty fast. The other band's going to stop. They're going to have to tear their stuff down and get it off the stage. Give them room to do that and give them a few minutes to do that. And then you got to get your stuff up and get it ready and get it set up as fast as you can, because you're like, well, there's 30 minutes between bands, but you don't get that whole 30 minutes. So the crew, the people that are setting up and running lines and all that, they have a lot of work to do, and they can't do their work until you're set up. So don't assume that that whole 30 minutes is for you. You get like 5 minutes of that. They've got a lot of work to do. Kind of be courteous and respectful of that. When you get up on stage, say you've got an amplifier, plug in, play through your amplifier, make sure everything works, and then stop playing. Don't stand up there noodling. This is not a time to practice. This is not a time to, I'm going to dial in this tone and that tone. Do all that on your own time. You're on somebody else's time now. So you get done, make sure your stuff works, stand there, not playing your instrument. Just be around, be ready to answer any questions that the sound crew may have as they're setting stuff up. Oh, do you want this line here? Do you want it there? Just be available for them to answer questions, but you shouldn't be playing because that's really irritating. And then just keep your eyes on the sound engineers. Be ready for when they're ready for you for sound check. So when they tell you, hey, fiddle player, we're ready for you, start playing. You should have been standing there ready and tuned up. Start playing at the loudest performance volume that you're going to go, because they're trying to set the gain on your channel to make sure that, we're not going to have you clipping, but we're going to have enough signal. And if you're going to use 5 or 6 different tones in the course of that performance, sort of cycle through those so that the sound engineer has an expectation. Oh, gosh, okay, so he is going to use an organ sound. If I hear organ, that's him. That way the sound engineer kind of knows what's happening, and they're able to make sure that their EQ and their compression and their gains are all set for all those different sounds. It's going to take a minute, so just be patient. Keep playing until they tell you to stop. When they tell you to stop, stop. And don't play again and wait, because they're going to go through all the channels, right? And then stand there quietly and wait for the monitor check. If there are 2 boards, there's a front of house board, which sometimes you'll see written FOH. So you'll see FOH, front of house. That's the board that's mixing for the audience. And then often there's a monitor console too. That's mixing all the speakers that you're listening to on stage. They're going to have to do all these steps twice. They're going to have to get everybody's level and EQ right out front, and they have to get it right on the side of the stage. Just be in contact with these people. They'll work together. They do this for a living. The good crews are going to do a lot of it at the same time if they're not chasing a bunch of fires down. But just be aware that there are 2 different boards that are going to have to do all this twice. When they're checking monitors, they're going to say, okay, we've got all the channels, we've got all the levels. Now we got to check monitors. You should still be standing at your spot, instrument on, tuned, and ready to go. And they say, okay, violin, go ahead and play. You'll start playing. Everybody else in your band, if they want it in their monitor, they're going to do this. So he's going to go monitor 1. He's going to look up and monitor. The person who's using monitor 1 is doing this. That means I need more violin. So he's going to start slowly turn it up. When it gets to the right volume, do this. They go past it. I need a little bit less. Okay, that's good. Stop. Now he's going to look at whoever's on monitor 2. Violin, keep playing. We'll watch monitor 2. He's got his finger pointed up. I need more. Good. Monitor 3. Keep playing violin. So all that's going on. You're going to do that for each person. So they go to bass. Okay, the bass player's playing. Each person. Okay, I need bass. Nope, that's enough. Oh, too loud. Okay, good. So that's how you're going to check your monitors. That'll go very quickly. If you guys are all standing there and you're paying attention, it goes pretty fast. Everybody's happy. If you need something different in your monitor, and keep in mind that the only person who can hear the monitor is you. This is not talking about what's out front. But if you need, my violin, it sounds kind of dull. Hey, can I get some more highs on my violin? yes, they can turn up the highs in your monitor to make your violin a little crisper and easier to hear. Don't be a diva about it. Like, again, the only person listening to that is you. It's got to be good enough that you can put your show on, but it doesn't have to be perfect in your monitor. One person can hear that. That's you. Just don't be a diva about it. Let the front of house person worry about what's coming out of the speakers out front. And if your monitor doesn't sound perfect, it's fine. It's a festival. We're going to be playing for like an hour. It's fine. It's got to be good enough that you can do your job, but you don't have to be all crazy about it. If there are some specific needs for you out front, say that you're using a DPA mic or something on your violin and you don't have a pedal board or anything, you're just, hey, this is just a DPA mic. You can tell them, it should be on your input list that you need phantom power for that, but you could say, hey, can you run up the high pass on that? Can you run it up to about 250 hertz? And I'm going to need quite a bit of reverb. So whatever reverb you're using for the vocals, just give me quite a bit of that on the violin out front. Should sound great. Ideally, they'll be able to run you mostly flat and dry, but if you don't really have a pedal board where you can do some of your own processing, you should be able to tell them what you need in short sentences and using words that engineers are going to understand. So numbers, I need some 300 hertz, or I need a cut at 2K or whatever. So those are all going to be very helpful things. And I'll get to these questions in just a second. I haven't even read them yet, but I see they're here. So during sound check, big no-no. Don't walk out front during sound check and stand there and like, oh, well, I can't hear the guitar, or can you turn his vocal up? Like, your relationship with that sound guy is over at that point. You do your job and he'll do his job. Your job's to play. You stand up there and play. His job is to mix. He'll stand out here and mix. You're going to be listening for very different things than they're listening for anyway. They're not trying to get stuff perfect during sound check. Usually the first song or two is when they finish dialing things in. Just, if you really want to hack off the engineer, walk out front and start talking about what you hear during sound check. Please don't do that. Stage volume. As you're up top and you're trying to decide how loud your monitor is going to be. Now, I get it. What I usually joke around with people, the sound engineers, when I start singing, when you see my hair moving, we're almost there. I need like a tsunami of voice coming out of this thing. The honest truth is, the quieter, the better. Front of house, which means the speakers that the audience is listening to, those need to be 10 dB louder than the stage in order for the engineer to have control. So if they shut the mains off and your monitors are so loud that they don't even really need the mains, then your engineer doesn't have any control. Your engineer doesn't have any control over what you're going to sound like. He's basically stuck kind of, well, hey, the drums are too loud. The drums are off. In my speakers, they're off. They're so loud in the monitors that I don't even have them on out here. So I have no control over what they sound like. That's bad. So the quieter, the better. That's what you need on stage. And generally, the band that I toured with, Spare Change, our rule was you put you in your wedge. So my wedge would have my voice and it would have my violin, and that's it. Well, I need to be able to hear the guitar player. Yes, you do. And you're going to hear him coming out of his wedge about 15 feet away from you. You're going to hear that. So if you can't hear that, like I can't hear his guitar coming out of his wedge, just because your wedge is too loud, turn it down. So ideally, if you want the very best sound, you're going to have only you and your monitor, and you're going to hear piano through the piano monitor, and you're going to hear the drums because drums are freaking loud, and you're going to be able to hear the guitar because guitars are usually freaking loud, and they have monitors too. So maybe you need a little bit of some of the vocals in your monitors, but probably not, because vocalists also need a lot. Ideally, you've got you and your wedge, they've got them in their wedge, and that helps keep stage sound down, so I don't have piano coming from 15 different wedges up there. And you should be able to listen to each other and hear what's going on. That's going to give your front of house guy the best chance to get you a good mix. It's also going to save your hearing. You're like, well, save my hearing. Why don't we use in-ears? Yes, you can use in-ears on a provided festival PA. sometimes it's a lot more work. And the reason is, like I just said with wedges, if your wedge mix is not perfect, well, you can still hear the mains and you can still hear what's happening around you. In-ears are so isolating that your in-ear mix has to be exactly right or you're kind of hosed, which means they're going to have to spend a lot more time getting each person's in-ear mix right. And time is usually one of those things that festivals do not have. Sometimes organizers are going to be like, well, we'll have a band at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Each one of them can play for an hour. You're like, we don't just appear on stage with our gear set up, right? It takes 20, 30 minutes to get all this done. And, you're going to have your bands earlier in the day are usually your less experienced bands. They don't know what's going on. They're all excited to be on a big stage. They're supposed to play from 4 until 5, but they're going to go to 5:15 because my cousin's here and he really wants to hear that song. So stuff starts running over early, usually at these festivals, and they start getting in a crunch for time. And then they got their headliner that they paid a bunch of money to have, but they've got a sound ordinance cutting the thing off at 10, and the headliner doesn't even get to take the stage until 9. You see how this is kind of a problem? So the faster you can get things done, the better. In-ears are slow. If you're playing a 45 or 60-minute set, my God, it isn't even worth it. If you're playing a 90-minute set, a 2-hour set, maybe it's worth it. But you'll probably want to bring your own mic and your own board so that you've got everything kind of set up in your own board. If you've got all your in-ear mixes already laid out in your board, sometimes that can help. When you advance the gig the week ahead of time, that's the time to let the sound company know, hey, we'd really like to use our in-ears. Is that going to be a possibility? And they can say, yeah, we'll bring our splitter snake and we can repatch everything and make it work. So if they say, yeah, that's cool, bring all your stuff and be ready to have your in-ears set up and run by you, and it'll be a lot quicker. If you're expecting them to provide in-ears and do all the in-ear mixing and all that, on a festival gig, probably not. Probably not going to have time for that unless you're the headliner. A set list. Print out your set list and bring a copy for the engineer at your show. If they've never heard your band before, they don't know what you're supposed to sound like. Maybe put a couple of very basic notes out. Here on this second song, we've got 3 singers. The second song, this guy's going to sing. This song, it's going to start with a cello solo, and this song's going to start with a drum set, whatever. Just give the engineer a fighting chance to get the start of the song so that they know kind of what's going on those songs. It's really helpful for them, and they can sort of follow along and go, okay, we're on the 3rd song out of 6. They're kind of watching time and trying to help you understand what's going on your stage. They might be able to send you a message going, hey, you're not going to be able to play all these songs. You're going to run out of time. You're going to need to decide which ones to cut. So yeah, bring a set list also for the engineer with a couple of basic notes on it. Etiquette while you're playing. If you need a monitor adjustment, the sooner you can ask for this, the better. So you're playing a 60-minute set, but there's like 6 other bands that are playing 60-minute sets today. And I know that you think your band's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and you probably are because you got an electric violin. But the guy sitting there running monitors, he doesn't care. He saw 8 bands yesterday. He's got 6 today. He's got 7 more tomorrow. Like he's over it. He's thinking about his girlfriend just left him or whatever. He'll probably be there for the first 10 minutes of your set, being attentive and trying to get your monitor mixes right. And then he's going to bounce and go get a corn dog or something. So you probably want to get your monitors dialed in as soon as possible and just be super cool about it. Don't be flipping out on stage. I've seen this. It looks super unprofessional. Somebody's up there like, oh, I can't hear my guitar. The audience doesn't know that you can't hear your guitar. They're like, why is that guy up there having like a seizure or something? Just be cool about it. Make eye contact with the engineer. Point to your guitar. Give him the little up sign. He'll know what to do. You learned all the tech crew's names when you came in, right? If they're doing a good job, thank them on the microphone. Hey, we want to thank Brian and Shaquille, and we want to thank Kelly. We want to thank all the people on the sound crew. Aren't they doing a great job? You guys give them some love. They're going to appreciate that. It's a small world. Sound crews get very little thanks. They get very little appreciation. You're probably going to end up working with these people again. It costs very little to give them a shout out, to give them a thanks. They're going to appreciate that a lot. Suppose you want to bring your own engineer to this show. That's great. Your engineer is going to know where gains are, gain rides are, solos, who's singing this, who's singing that. Your engineer is going to know what you're supposed to sound like. Often the front of house guy would appreciate having an hour break during the day where he doesn't have to mix a band that he doesn't know what they're supposed to sound like. However, let them know ahead of time. When you advance the gig, let them know, hey, we're going to be bringing our own guy, and be respectful of their gear. The sound company, they own that gear. And there's probably, in some places there could be $500,000 worth of stuff up there. They don't want you blowing it up, right? This is how they make their living. Sometimes you got these punk bands that come in there. They're like, we're on a big festival stage. We're going to be loud as hell. Woo! And they run it up and they start blowing speakers. And the sound companies don't appreciate that because they've got to go play another festival tomorrow with this same gear. And you just cost them money because their stuff's blown up. So be respectful of their gear. Don't be, changing all the settings on their light boards and everything. They're like, come on, man, I got to run lights for the next band in 10 minutes. What are you doing? Rearranging everything. Try to be respectful. And so, yes, the next thing that we hear from a lot of people, actually, let me pause here and take some questions. What's up, Martin? I just saw you the other day, man. Thanks for coming in. Lance, what's happening, Lance? Let's see what's on here. String players playing with a full band for the first time. Pay attention to the sound engineers during sound check. Yes. Be responsive to questions about what you want to hear in your wedge. Yes. The other thing that I'll do, Lance, is after a sound check, once they've got me dialed in, I will usually go out front and talk to them. Say, hey, man, thanks for running sound and everything. Are you getting everything you need from us? Yeah. Okay, great. And just for my own curiosity, what are you doing with my violin? Did you have to make any major adjustments? I've got mine pretty dialed in, so usually the answer from them is no. But if, 3 or 4 times in a row, I hear a guy go, yeah, I had to cut a little bit of 3K out of there. It's a little stabby. Then it means, okay, well, 3 different engineers have told me that in the last week. Maybe I should pull some 3K out of my rig so that they don't have to do that next time, right? So, yeah, I almost always try to communicate with the sound engineers. And if they're saying, oh, yeah, I had to put a lot of compression on it, I will kind of let them know, actually, honestly, please don't, because I'm going to lay back a lot on stuff. And if I'm not very loud, I'm not trying to be very loud. Just go ahead and leave me buried. If I'm laying back, it's because I'm trying to just create a little bit of a floor. When I'm ready to solo, you'll know. It'll be there. So yeah, just communicate with them. They're humans mostly speak English. Can talk to them. Yeah, and that's the thing with critiquing a sound engineer. Even if they need it, even if they deserve it, it almost never goes well. And it's because, yeah, they even if they don't know better than you, they think they do. And this is coming from a guy who's an engineer. Yeah, it's not going to go well. It's one of those is like arguing with a cop. Like, what's the point? There's nothing good's going to come out of that. So, all right. So next thing, there's a bunch of off-topic stuff. I'm not going to have time to get to all that today. Sorry, everybody. If your question is off topic of what we're talking about, I probably won't get to it today. You can send us an email or something. So how to sound good is the next thing. A lot of people complain that they get to a gig and, yeah, sound engineer, they always wreck my tone. I always sound terrible when a sound engineer is working my show. And are there incompetent engineers? Yes, absolutely there are incompetent engineers. But we can try to make it better with a few things that we're doing. So here's how you're going to sound good. 1 is you should sound good. 2, don't play over the vocals. And 3, don't try to occupy the same sonic space as somebody else in your band. What does all that mean? Let's talk about it. When I say you should sound good, the signal that you're sending with no adjustments, no EQ, no reverb, no compression, it should sound good, right? So when they first plug you in, You start playing, they say, go ahead and play. I'm going to try to gain you up. They're watching some meters. They're going to gain you up watching the meters, and then they're going to unmute your channel. Violin's going to come pouring out of the speakers. That right there, that should sound good. So you should have your stuff dialed in to where when they amplify that with no EQ, no compression, no reverb, it should sound good. People don't try to fix stuff that isn't broken. If they're up there turning knobs and they're trying to scoop this and move that, it's because what they heard didn't sound good. So you should make sure that what's coming out of their speakers the very first time sounds good. You should know how to use your gear. You should know how to play your instrument. You should know how to use your gear. The signal that you send them, unaltered, should sound good. Lay back with your right hand. The big temptation at these things, big stage, big crowd, everybody's excited. You start digging in and start ripping. We've got a sound check. I'm going to rip off this lick. I'm going to impress everybody. And but you're digging in super hard with your right hand. Electric violins get super screechy when you dig in too hard. So what they're going to hear is just, and they're going to immediately dive for some EQ knobs and try to get all that out of your sound. Lay back. If you cannot hear yourself, ask them to turn you up. Don't just start grinding. And again, that's very, very tempting. Okay, you got your monitor right. Okay, right. Wedge is good. Now the band starts. The drummer's all excited. He's hitting harder than he was a minute ago, and your monitor is not loud enough. Don't start playing louder to try to make your monitor louder. If you're trying to play louder, you're going to sound worse. Just look over at the monitor guy and go, fiddle up, please. Much appreciated. So that's one way to make sure that you sound good so that the engineer doesn't start trying to make changes to your sound. Because if somebody who doesn't know how to EQ a violin starts trying to EQ a violin, it's going to sound bad. So you should do all the EQ in your system so that you're taking it out of the engineer's hands. Does that make sense? If you have opinions on what you should sound like, you should exercise those opinions in your own gear. Leave some space. This is a mistake I see violinists make all the time. I go to see violinists all the time because I love seeing other people play. And the biggest mistake I see them make is that they're not listening to what's happening on the stage. They've got ideas they're playing, right? I got to show everybody I can play in 15th position. The engineer's job is to fit all these puzzle pieces together. And if you're playing on top of people, the singer's singing and you're playing some stuff while the singer is singing, the engineer is like, I got two people trying to occupy the same space. I've got to scoop something out. And I'm not scooping out the singer. So what does that leave? I'm going to scoop the mids out of the violin to clear them out of the singer's way. And that leaves you with this right here. That's, you don't want your violin to sound like that. Well, maybe you do. I don't want mine to sound like that. So, yeah, back to here. If you're playing on top of the guitar player, you're playing on top of the singer, the engineer's got choices to make, and they're going to start carving your sound up. So, and you don't want them doing that. So leave some space so that they don't want to do that. And this is just good advice in every situation. Put yourself in the shoes of the person that you're working with. Remember that crew? They are the first people to arrive at this show. They were probably there at 5 or 6 o'clock this morning, setting everything up. They're the last people out of the show. They're going to be out of here at midnight tonight after everything's done. 16, 18-hour days. They probably had one yesterday, probably got another one tomorrow. Half of the bands that they're going to work with today did not bring a set list, input list, stage plot, didn't bring any of that. They don't have any information. Somebody shows up with 4 bazookies and a xylophone. They're like, we don't even know what to do with this. So they never get enough information, never get any appreciation. That's why they're grumpy. So if you can make sure that you're giving them the information that they want, you're showing up when they ask you to show up, you're showing some appreciation, you're making their job easy, they're going to love you. And it's a small world. Like, these people all talk to each other. All the sound companies, they talk to each other. They're trading employees back and forth. They're in contact with all these festivals. The festivals are calling them up. Hey, JBL Sound, we need you to come work this festival. And they're like, well, who do you got playing out there? I don't know. Who do you suggest? These people all talk to each other. It's not that big a world. So You want to be on the list of people that are easy to work with. They always sound good. They're fun. They're professional. That's the list you want to be on. So make sure that you're on that list. All right. Lance. Yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely. I love using wireless stuff. I hate wired anything. It's such a giant pain in the rear. But always keep an instrument cable laying up there. If it starts crapping out, if your wireless starts doing something goofy in the middle of a show, just plug it in, and sucks being plugged in. But the only person even has to know is you. So yeah, for sure. I know that's a ton of information. Hopefully that's helpful for people that are kind of new to this. Not sure if we've had some turnover. I want to show you guys what a good input list and stage plot looks like. We talked about input list and stage plot. You want to bring these things for the sound company. And this is a sample one from my band, just saying what I've got, all these different things. And this lets the sound company know what they need to provide, and it's telling them what I'm going to provide. And that way, if they've got this a week ahead of time, they know everything that's going to happen. There are no surprises when we get there. And it's like, oh, yeah, we decided to add a brass quintet to our thing. They're like, where are they going to stand? Because here's your stage plot. Here's where you're going to be. Make sure that all of this stuff that you're sending them is up to date. And when they get there, it's accurate information. You hand them a stage plot, and they go, oh, that's wonderful. We'll just have it ready for you. So those are things that are going to make them very, very happy if they have these things. All right, where's my... Right there. There we go. Any questions from you guys? Hopefully that was helpful. Yeah. Yeah, and also the whole deal about sound check. Like you get up there, check to make sure your stuff is working. Yes, you need to make sure it's working, and then stop. Stop playing. They've been bombarded with music all day. They don't particularly care to hear Baba O'Reilly coming out of you. Just stop. Don't play. And then the other big thing I'll see, people get set up. They play. Okay, everything's working. Great. Then they set their stuff down and they go wander off to go get some popcorn. And you're like, bro, you had an opportunity to do that half an hour ago. We're trying to sound check and nobody in the band is on stage. So, the sound crew's thinking we got a schedule to maintain, and everybody in the band just wandered off. They're over there talking to their girlfriend or over there playing Facebook or something on their phone. Like, dude, you should be where you need to be, just waiting. Also extremely frustrating if you're a sound crew. So, again, I hope all that was helpful. Any questions that you guys want to dump in the comments, we'll try to address those. I'll give it another minute or two. Yeah. All they had to bring was 3 DI boxes, but they only brought 2. And, sometimes that's a thing. Sometimes, we had, maybe I played last night and something went down last night. And it happens. Generally, a good professional sound company will have lots and lots of extra stuff. And you can be like, bro, I hate to ask you for this. I know it's unprofessional, but my instrument cable broke last night while I was on stage. I haven't been able to get to a store to buy another one. Can I borrow a 1/4 inch from you? I promise that I will give it back. They're used to that sort of thing as long as you give it back. It's great. Yeah, you've done a ton of these, Pete. I know you know. Any other questions? Awesome. Well, I'm really excited. I'm actually headed to New Orleans this weekend. I know I just got back from Africa, and then I was in West Virginia playing. I'm headed to New Orleans. Garth Brooks and Nitty Gritty Dirt Band are playing in New Orleans this weekend in the Superdome, and I'm going to go hang. I'm going to go hang with those guys. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm super stoked about hanging out with Ross Holmes and Jimmy Mattingly, 2 like absolute heroes of mine. And yeah, I'm really stoked. I'm excited about it. And I wanted to tell somebody, so I told you. I should be back here next week, though, to do another one of these. I think somebody had asked on our Facebook page if we would do a thing about tuning. So I think we may do that next week. We may get super nerdy about tuning and talk about tuning theory and some of those things. And and how, man, it's just, my mind is starting to reel just thinking about how I'm going to discuss all this. There's a whole lot to the whole tuning thing. Like, what is in tune? It turns out there's no such thing. Um, but yeah, lots of fun. We'll do that next week, I think. Unless another topic comes up, if you guys have ideas, put them in the comments and we'll try to cover something next week. Awesome. Well, I got more videos to shoot, so I'm going to go do that. You guys have a fantastic week, and I will see you next week after the Garth and Nitty Gritty Dirt Band show. Cannot wait.